Wow, you are back in a big way.
I am back, baby.
You are. My goodness.
Wow.
Live from New York, it's the show that's still recovering from eating several cookies yesterday. Brew, how are you feeling?
I did have a sugar rush after the show. I had a headache for a good hour or two after the show.
It's first things
No
first.
doubt.
Today, return to the court is TBD. Your reaction?
Well, first of all, I think an apology is in order. Not for me.
This is not.
I know it's not about you, but it's just fair. Because you said, March 4th, when Giannis went down in warm-ups, you said he was writhing in pain and that it was something to be concerned about.
Yes.
And Nick mocked you.
No, you
Nick destroyed
I
you.
just said it's
I don't
not
like that.
writhing. I said it's wincing, and you then conceded that you used the wrong
It's
word.
wincing, but this is the same calf, non-contact injury. And unfortunately, I take no pleasure out of this. It's like a character in a movie who can see the future, like, nah, I don't want to look. I don't want to be right about this.
Yeah.
But this is terrifying. It's going to be at least 14 days out. And even then, he's got to be minutes restriction. I think you've got to be panicked.
Well, look, the playoffs start. Yeah, because Damian Lillard had this same injury last year. Now, there's degrees, obviously.
Yeah.
But he missed. He was out for 7 games, about 2 weeks.
And Luke, if you remember, had this injury.
He had the same injury?
In game 82 2 years ago and missed the first 3 playoff games. So he had the injury.
Jalen Brunson?
Right, the year they made the conference finals.
Right.
And so now Durant had this same injury, was out much longer, and then when he came back tore his Achilles. So that's
his obviously was probably a different
right, but that's my
grade,
point is I don't know we know what grade. So I think anywhere from, and I'll let you finish, but I think anywhere from him being out the next 10 days and him being out the next 3+ weeks is on the board, and I don't think there's any way to know it right now.
Well, the playoffs start April 20th and 21st.
Yep.
So that's
we're 2 weeks away.
Not 3 weeks away.
Yeah, just on.
This is obviously a problem, and unfortunately, look, I hate to say this, but Doc has kind of been looking for an excuse. He has a real one now, unfortunately.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe that.
Unfortunately,
you're right.
Like now, and I'm not.
Who else has a real parachute? Also,
oh,
just tell you, I don't even need an olive branch. Your star player goes down.
No, it is in the bylaws.
You're a Picks free agent if that happens. But go ahead.
But hopefully this is not the case. I mean, thankfully it's not an Achilles tear. But is the best case scenario, or I should say the more realistic scenario, that it's similar to last year's playoffs when he had to miss 2 games in the first round against Miami, right? And they went 1-1 in those games, but they obviously lost the series 4-1.
Well, and he didn't look like himself when he came back.
So even if he's able to play in the first round, if he's not himself, they could be in trouble. And look, if they get Philly, especially now, they're the underdog. If they get Miami, they might be the underdog just because.
No way.
Well, with Giannis, kind of, we don't know what he's going to look like.
Well, they certainly wouldn't be a Vegas underdog unless
Vegas.
Giannis
but
were,
I'm just saying,
and if Giannis were ruled out for the series, they might be the Vegas.
Well, if he's out for the series, they're going down. But if he misses even a couple of games, Miami has a great chance. And then look, and you talked about this, Indiana. And I get it that the regular season doesn't always, happen in the postseason, but Indiana's beaten them 4 out of 5 games this season. And that's when Milwaukee was playing better basketball. So it's unfortunate, but
all right, let me paint one optimistic picture in regards to Giannis, not in regards to how the Bucks play, anything like that. I watched this player, I'm certain, blow every ligament in his knee and play the next game.
Right.
I watched it happen. And I know that sounds ridiculous. I'm telling you guys, when I saw that happen, I'm like, oh no, Giannis is out a year. And he was slightly hampered game 1 of the finals, and then the next 5 games averaged 37 a night and was the most dominant player on both ends. So there is a level of where, and I understand that LeBron never really dealt with calf issues, but we saw LeBron in his prime. It's like, oh, he's out a month with an ankle sprain and not miss a playoff game. And so I say that to say this level of freak athlete, which I actually don't consider Kevin Durant in that regard because Durant's body is not the way Giannis's is, and it's not where, I don't look at it the same way. I'm not going to say it's off the table that he recovers from this differently than Luka Doncic, who's not the same athlete, than Damian Lillard, all of it. So that is the...
Hopefully you're right.
Right, and I'm not predicting it. I'm just saying it's on there's a full menu of options here. That's the optimistic side. The pessimistic side is this is the last stroke in a season from hell.
Correct.
I was about to say that.
Where you fire your coach who you won a championship
First Terry
with.
Stotts quits.
Right, I'm saying you fire Budenholzer, you fire Bud. Before the year even gets going, Terry Stotts, who was kind of the experienced voice that you were going to have along with a rookie head coach. He doesn't make it to game one because of a conflict with Adrian Griffin. You then give Adrian Griffin the David Blatt treatment, which is don't care that you're in line to coach the All-Star game. Right. We don't think you're the right coach. You bring in Doc. You're a disaster since then. The weird stuff you've talked about, dating back to the Pacers game ball and all of it, Dame's sadness, and now, right before the playoffs start, use the dreaded non-contact, what just happened. Yep. And so, can I add one other thing before we move on? And this is just the way my brain works, where I play a lot of what-if games with sports. But this is why missed opportunities, you don't always realize in the moment how significant they are. But the 2022 postseason, when the Bucks are the defending champs, and the Bucks are up 3-2 on Boston, and the Bucks, we now know on the western side of that bracket, the Warriors were going to get through. And to this day, I will go to my grave believing the Warriors would not have been able to deal with Giannis in that series ever. And Jason Tatum has the game of his life in Game 6, and Grant Williams and company hit 1,000,000 threes in Game 7, and the title defense is over. And it's like, oh, man. Well, you know what? It's hard to win back-to-back. Then the next year, Giannis hurts his back, and you're out in round one. Then the next year, all this weird stuff happens, and you make a trade, you fire your coach. And it's like, wait, what could have been Giannis's run is – I'm not saying –
See, I don't view it as a missed opportunity. I blew it as they weren't good enough. I mean, Boston beat them. Like, it wasn't, the Bucks, they didn't play well. They gave it up to the – Boston beat them, and we've seen this Milwaukee team struggle in the postseason and lose series to Miami that you figured
– and they would have played Miami in the next round.
Right, and so I hear you.
No, I agree with you.
But in this one,
I'm not saying they got
not as good as we thought they would have been.
Maybe. I'm not saying they got unlucky. You're right. Boston was better. Boston was down 3-2. Their best player had the game of his life up to that point. That's what sports is about. But in the moment – if we'd have said, hey, Milwaukee's not even going to be back in round 2 for another 3 years, you'd have said impossible. Right. But now it feels very possible pending his injury status.
Next thing you know, he's playing at Madison Square Garden.
Well, who knows?
Meanwhile, in L.A., the Warriors
the Bay
shot the lights out and rolled an AD-less Lakers squad. LeBron had 33, but it wasn't enough. Traffic jam in the play-in. Phoenix, Sacramento, LA and Golden State all within 2 games of each other. And I tried to figure out the tiebreakers, and I read an article, and I was going to explain it here, and my brain short-circuited. Nick, perhaps you can do a better job. How devastating was this for the Lakers?
It's the biggest game of the year. And now had they won last night, they would essentially control their own destiny to the 7-8 line. Because of the loss last night, they now have to hope against hope they don't end up the 10 seed. You know what I mean? Because they don't even control their own destiny as far as not being the 10.
Right.
And here's the thing. This loss, though, the ramifications were going to be super significant. But it should be theoretically easy to understand. Well, Anthony Davis wasn't there, and the Warriors had literally the best shooting night in the history of the NBA.
Yeah, it helps.
No team has ever shot 40 or more threes at a better percentage. It's never happened. Draymond, Steph, and Clay all hit 5 threes in a game. That hasn't happened since the 73-win season. You should be able to chalk it up to that. But the reason I can't, and the reason I was angry tweeting, which I promised America I was going to try to do less of, the reason is because despite all of it, the Lakers had a chance in this game. And then Darvin Ham rolled out for the first time. Brew, I knew you were. Hold on. This is going to make me mad.
Darvin Ham's fault.
Well, let me
Darvin Ham's
hold
fault.
on, wait. Here's the thing on this. Let me show you the lineup, and then let me ask you whose fault it is. Because let me show you the lineup that he rolled out there. These 5 guys who had played going into the end of the third quarter last night, let me check watch, 0 minutes together, and you know why? Because that's an absurd. It's D'Lo, a worse version of D'Lo and Dinwiddie, a worse version of Dinwiddie and Gabe Vincent, and then Taurean Prince and Jackson Hayes. That lineup, and they let go of the rope, and the game's over. The game was over in 3 minutes. And I know you think I'm too hard on Darvin Ham, but here's my question to you, Brew. AD's been excellent and healthy. LeBron's been excellent and healthy. You like the roster. I don't, but you do. Okay. So why aren't they better other than the coaches?
I don't think LeBron's playing as well as his numbers suggest. Okay. He doesn't impact the game. He was great last night. Yeah. He couldn't impact the game. We saw it against Denver. Great. So couldn't impact the game.
So you agree with Wildes then?
No, I'm not saying he's the problem. I mean, Wildes says he's the problem. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the numbers are giving you the impression. Because if you got a guy putting up the numbers say he's as good as ever.
No, I know he's not that. Nobody's saying that. But do you think?
And he doesn't dominate games anymore. No, okay. Not regularly.
I get that, which is why they're not a champion contender. But that's not the problem here. My question is this. The Lakers is Anthony.
I'm just saying with LeBron, and you know how much I love LeBron. But I'm tired of every time his team doesn't win a championship or doesn't get close, it's somebody else's fault.
But hold on a second.
It's always the coach's fault or the teammate's fault. It's not.
But right. So
he's not to blame, but I'm just saying they're not as good as people think.
Hold on. But wait. So this is the discrepancy here. I agree with you that LeBron is not able to carry a team, obviously, to championship contention by himself. Nobody.
Well, he ain't even being asked to do it by himself. He's got Anthony Davis.
Okay, but here's my question. If we will just go as conservative as possible, Anthony Davis is one of the 15 best players in the league, and LeBron's one of the 20 best players in the league. Okay, be as conservative as possible, meaning
that's very conservative.
Very conservative, right? So why? So if I just say LeBron's the 18th best player in the league, I think he's probably closer to 8th. Call him 18th. Why is the team not better? If you have,
it's on the players, man. I'm not trying to defend Darvin Ham. I'm just saying, if it's not Darvin Ham, it's Luke Walton, it's Frank Vogel, who has a championship, by the way. Play the game. All right, just go out there and play. I mean, we can look at any coach. Steve Kerr, was it his fault? Was he all of a sudden a bad coach when the Warriors were struggling? Some people were throwing out Steve Kerr like, oh, he ain't doing a good job. No, I'm just saying. No,
but Steve Kerr has a resume of a good job. I guess here's my thing. What evidence do we have Darvin Ham's a good coach?
Last year they got to the Western Conference Finals. And nobody expected him to.
And you thought
How about that?
So you think so?
I'm not saying he was working magic, but I think he did a fine job.
Okay. So if the issue I have is, if we all think Anthony Davis is playing great, which I think he's playing great.
Playing excellent.
And after playing 98 of 100 games, it's bad. It's unfortunate. He gets elbowed in the face and misses the game. LeBron is, I had Josh, the same thing you did, Wildes, because I'm on to all your Wildes' dirty tricks. Wildes tried the other day to have, we had Josh do the same research, but for different ends, which was, is there any number we can point to that says actually LeBron's hurting the Lakers? And the
answer is no.
And is somebody saying he's hurting the Lakers?
Well, Wildes
are you saying he's hurting the Lakers?
I'm not saying he's hurting the Lakers, but trying to find the culprit on why this team, which is excellent and has 2 All-Stars and 2 top 20 guys conservatively, top 13 guys, optimistically, is sitting at the 10 and fighting for their lives.
Right. Here's what I'll say. LeBron is skilled enough, especially with adding the three-point shot, and smart enough in an NBA where it's darn near impossible to really defend with the floor so spread. He knows how to get his numbers. He's smart enough to do that, but he's not impacting the game even close to the way he used to, in part because he used to be a terrific defender. And now he doesn't do much at all on that end of the floor. Occasionally here or there, but I'm saying that it looks like LeBron, like I said, he's not as playing as well as his numbers suggest. How about that? Because 2 25-point scores and one of them is a great defender, you'd think they'd be better.
No, so I agree with you that if you can't just pull up LeBron's stats this year and compare him to LeBron's stats in 2012 and be like, Look, same guy. Even though he's a better three-point shooter now than I totally agree with that. But the drop shouldn't. In those years of LeBron, the teams are one of the two. We're now talking about them being the 10.
They also were in the weaker Eastern
Sure,
Conference.
but the number of wins, it's a massive drop. Anthony Davis has been excellent.
Yep.
And I know you think that I'm being too hard on Darvin Ham. I know this, that everyone was shocked that Taurean Prince and not Rui was in the starting lineup to start the year. I know that the people who cover the team, whether it's the local media or the local bloggers, were beside themselves about it. There was even an article written about how Darvin took from his time in Milwaukee, like the blueprint, and looks at Taurean as his Chris Middleton. And this team started Taurean Prince for 49 games, was 24 and 25. They then finally went to the lineup that took them to the Western Conference Finals, and they're 21 and 10 since then. I know that last night you have a lineup in the biggest game of the year, in the second half in a 7-point game. Why would you ever say, hey, a lineup that literally has never played together, let's try it out now? That's coaching. I mean, that's coaching.
But it's still a 7-point game, and Golden State still shot the lights out.
Right, but they had already done.
So we can't say they would have won that game had he not put that lineup in.
No, what I am saying is that you had got, despite Draymond had hit 5 threes in the first half, that you had gotten through the real muck's the wrong word, but the assault.
You weathered the storm.
You'd weathered the storm, and you were there in the biggest moment of the season. And it is just, to me, objectively true that in that moment is not the time. Do you agree with this? Not the time to try a lineup that's never played together.
I agree with that. My point is just that every time they lose, it's the coach's fault. But when they're rolling, you've been spouting about how they've been one of the best teams in the league for the last 3 months. All right? Well, was Darvin Ham terrible then?
Well, no, I think overall for the season, I think Darvin Ham has caused more harm than good. I think the obsession with Taurean Prince, who I like as a person, but at this point is one of the, by any advanced metric, one of the most
minutes had dropped.
It took 50 games. It took most people 5. Like with Taurean Prince, like in 2018, it wasn't a great idea, and so it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, it's a devastating.
Let's move on to the Warriors.
I knew it. They're gonna draw you back in.
A little.
I knew it.
Like, there's Denver. And we've said it, then there's a group after that, right?
100% right.
They're in that group. I'm putting them in that group. Minnesota, the Lakers are still in that group. They're in that group. Because, and this is, I didn't get to say this when we talk about the Lakers, this is one reason why it's so devastating. If they play the Warriors in the 9-10, it's going to be in Golden State,
and one of them
most likely.
Home.
Right, and in a one and done, I'm not saying the Lakers wouldn't beat them in a series, but in a one and done,
get hot.
And if they get hot like that again, so there's that. But I think they're now in that group right below Denver where they got a shot. I'm going to raise their ceiling, assuming a healthy Denver, from the second round to the conference finals. Not saying I'm picking them for that, but I'm raising I think their ceiling now is Denver in the conference finals. And here's the thing, Nick. Since January 28th, I mentioned it yesterday, but here's the graphic. They have the 4th best record in the league, not just the West. 25-11, that's a good 2.5-month stretch. That is a 57-win pace.
Right.
So over 82 games. So they are playing, and the great thing is, and you brought it up, that Steph is not like he's been carrying them. He's averaging like 23 points over the last, and not shooting well over the last month and a half. Yeah. I love what the other guy, Clay, is starting to find. He's found himself. He's kind of back, I won't say back to the old Clay, but he's playing well. And the young role players are playing well. And Trace Jackson-Davis has given them a little size. You guys know that I've always wanted them to get bigger. But they are the second, believe it or not, the second best rebounding team in the league.
They are.
That's hard to, and the third best offensive rebounding. So when you shoot it as well as they do, you're going to get extra possessions. They're dangerous. Certainly not picking them to win the West, but they're dangerous.
And I know I'm not allowed to blame Darvin Ham or Rob Pelinka for anything because Rob Pelinka won a championship a few years ago. But that Trace Jackson-Davis pick, that would have been one of those nice things, a guy the Lakers could use in the rotation. But of course, I think their guys in the G League from the draft picked Adam.
Spencer Dinwiddie.
Who is terrible.
Well,
Spencer Dinwiddie is. You keep.
Spencer Dinwiddie has had. I mean, that's the thing. D'Angelo Russell's not terrible. No, Austin Reeves not terrible. Jackson Hayes isn't terrible. Rui Hachimura isn't terrible. They're not terrible.
Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and who's the first? D'Lo have all played really well, and I like that 5-man unit. That side of the table's love for league minimum Jackson Hayes, who his team gave up on.
No, for what he is, he's an athletic, bouncy guy off the bench. That gives you his 10 minutes off the bench.
I talk Warriors, that's fine. I didn't say anything about Jackson Hayes. I said something about the guy that Lakers drafted at 17 when they could have this guy who's been in the G League all year. I know. That's what I said. Then he brought up Spencer Dinwiddie
because you
watched him with the Nets a few years ago, and when he was actually good.
All right, he's not as good as he thinks he is.
Something about the Warriors. All right.
You agree with me, right? On the Warriors.
Absolutely
on the Warriors?
not. What? You guys can't quit this Warriors narcotic. The fact of the matter is this. You know what they proved last night? The nights they look like the 2016 Warriors, they look awesome. Really good. Because that team was awesome. Yeah. And they had the best shooting night, not as a team in league history, but Steph, Clay, and Draymond all hitting 5 threes has not happened in a game since 2016. So before this game, my ceiling for the Warriors was bounced in round 1. After this game, I'm going to check. Yeah, bounced in round 1. I'm not going to. Wildes, what do they call me?
Mr. Consistent.
I mean, am I going to? Would it make sense to drastically change my opinion on a team based on one game they play?
It's not one game. No, you didn't know that graphic.
I didn't know. You showed it yesterday.
Yeah, but yesterday you were befuddled by that graphic.
I know the graphic.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, the Cowboys
2.5 months.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.